He came from nothing. He conquered everything. All right. This is one of the quotes, attributed to this man. Tell me who this man is, okay, and something about him. Okay. Yes. Yeah, he you could say he lost he lost everything at the end. That's true. That's true. I mean, some people would say that. Some people would definitely say that. Some people said that he achieved a lot, and he left a legacy, right? Maybe good, maybe bad. That is up to you to decide. Good, good, good. But again, Sanya and Kamen, you know, everyone loses everything. You will. When I watched a movie, and when you die, you will lose everything. Everyone loses everything. You're not going to take your millions. You're not going to take your castles. Um, yeah, you might be on someone's wall. You might be in a photo album. You might leave some things on the internet. But when you die, you lose everything. Everyone loses everything, right? And um, so yeah, it is, it's part of the human experience, and Napoleon is no different, right? He lived and he died, and he lost everything when he died, right? So Maria says Napoleone Buonaparte. That's the Italian or the Corsican way, because he was from Corsica, the island of Corsica in the Mediterranean. And the French word was Bonaparte or Buonaparte. Very nice. So there was a new blah, blah, blah I was eager to see. Now, you could say a new movie. What's another word for movie? There was a new release, a new lease. Okay, a new leasing, okay, or a new listing. Which one would be the best word to describe a new movie that came out? Okay, interesting. Yeah, eager to be excited. Okay, prequel, great word. It means, yeah, it is the story before the story. That's a great way to explain it. Yeah. So you have the sequel. This is a story. Sequel is after, prequel is before. Pre means before. And so prequel and sequel. Sequel is the second part. Okay, very nice. So I watched the trailer before. I watched the trailer like a week ago. And I was eager to watch the new release. The new release of Napoleon. Now, it was released last week on Thanksgiving Day. And I really, really was excited about this movie for several reasons. But before, let's look at this. All right, so the story. What would be the story? Okay, another word for the story, okay, would be the cast, the plot, okay, the tag, okay, or the line. This means the story, the sequence of events that happen. Okay, the sequence of events that happen. Okay, let's see who knows this one. Okay, remember, yeah. So you can vote. That's better than writing in the chat but that's okay. If you write in the chat, if you like to write in the chat, that's okay. It also helps other students because they read. So they listen and they read, and it's very dynamic, right? So yeah. So when you develop a story, and you will see the story of Napoleon is a perfect plot because it is designed with the exposition, the complication, the climax, the resolution and the conclusion. This is how you want to structure a story. Okay, they call it the Freitag, right? It's spelled Freitag, but in German it's Freitag, which means Friday, but it's also a, free day. But the spelling is a little bit different. Okay, so Gustav Freitag was a 19th century literary critic, 1863. He proposed that Shakespeare's plays, all these plays, Shakespeare, remember, we talked about Shakespeare. He's one of the greatest storytellers in all of history. Now, he came up with the idea that all of Shakespeare's stories, and the best stories, are divided in 5 major sections. They're called acts. And this is the plan, okay? And so when you watch movies, it's important, I like to look at the different stages. We'll talk about the different stages of Napoleon's story, but it's important to see where are we on the pyramid, on the journey. Exposition is the beginning where you see him, you get to know him, he starts. Complication, that's the challenges. Climax, right? So here, exposition is he's a soldier. He's starting out his career. Complication, the wars. Climax, he becomes the emperor. Resolution, he loses the battle. Conclusion, he was cast away. So it's important to look at that. So very nice, everyone. Important thing is plot here. Okay, great. So Irena, you got the actor. Good. So the actor is Joaquin Phoenix. Now, who is the director? And this director is shown here. He is shown here. Okay. And so choose which one: Steven Spielberg, James Cameron, or Ridley Scott? Yes. It's not Javier Bardem. It is a different one. So, okay, it is Ridley Scott. Now, here's a point. For movies, especially really good movies, what I look at is the relationship between the actor, the main actor, and the director. So remember, comment just nice words, okay? Nice words here. We don't want to use bad words, okay? Point number 1. Point number 2, let's try to be positive, okay? Let's try to be positive. Let's try to be constructive. We want a good learning environment, okay? But of course, all opinions are welcome. It's just how you present it, right? Presentation, diplomacy, and tact. You want to be tactful in the chat. I know it's easy to write blah, 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 but we want to be diplomatic here, okay? And so, they could be. But, also, it would be interesting to see why. But back to the point, the actor and the director, right? So these two people, they have a long history. Ridley Scott, a renowned filmmaker. He's a filmmaker, he's a director. He is celebrated for his distinctive visual style. So he is, if you've watched some of his movies, Gladiators, visual, it's action, really good takes, amazing cinematography, especially for action, adventure, science fiction. And he's, his contributions to the science fiction genre, to the historic epics, these stories, historical novels, or then, absolutely amazing, especially because of the visuals. Joaquin Phoenix. He's exceptionally talented, right? He's very, very talented. If you know, he's won an Oscar. He was in The Joker, and he's had a lot of different roles, right? A lot of roles. Groundbreaking means that they're new. So he is groundbreaking is great. It is amazing. It's revolutionary. They are they change pretty much the just exceptional, great, fantastic. So his roles, right? He's had so many roles. His most famous one is The Joker. He won an Oscar. And he immerses himself in the characters. That's what makes him great. Okay? He tries to become the character. Okay, he tries to become the character. He studies it. He's very, very good at playing the character. He reads psychology books. He changes who he is pretty much for the movie, and you really do feel this. So I think he's one of the best actors nowadays. Very, very intense. And so whenever there's a director like Ridley Scott and Joaquin Phoenix, one of the best directors and one of the best actors, I want to see that movie. I want to see that work. And so here you see them. This was a collaboration between Ridley Scott and Joaquin Phoenix in the film Gladiator, one of the greatest films, in the last, few decades. And I think it won like 11 Academy Awards, Oscars. Now, this was when their relationship started. They started working together, and that was more than 20 years ago. More than 20 years ago. So, a movie is kind of like a band, right? Like a band, the different members of the band, the singers, the musicians, they feed off of each other. You see, so the guitarist plays, and then the singer feels the energy of the guitar, and then the drummer starts, with a beat, and then all of them together, they build that song. They create that song. The same goes with movies. You have actors and directors. And directors, they have the vision. And actors have that ability to become someone. Okay? And yes, Yana says, this movie is amazing. Yeah. Gladiator is amazing. And so, yes. So looking at the team that produces a movie, the company also, and everyone around, right? The editors, and it is a team project. But the main thing is the main actor and the director. What kind of relationship do they have? And understanding that can be a great insight into the movie. All right, so Napoleon Bonaparte, or Napoleon Bonaparte, born in Corsica in 1769, rose from a blah, blah, blah background. Well, the background, it's kind of the social class. But we don't want to say social class because that's very classist. We want to be more polite, more politically correct. I don't really like that idea, but we can't say, oh, so would it be poor, noble, or modest? What would be the best word that fits here? A, B, or C? So he was born in Corsica, right, an island in the Mediterranean, right, part of France, but with an Italian, big Italian influence. And he rose, meaning he grew up, or he comes from. Yeah, everyone, the whole cast and all the film crew, they make a great team. Exactly. Hello, Frank. Okay, so what is the best way to describe his background? So The best way would be to say modest. Now, you could say poor, but that's a little bit offensive. And he wasn't really poor. He was just not rich. He was normal, lower middle class, maybe. He wasn't super low. He was lower. He wasn't noble. He wasn't an aristocrat. He wasn't part of the noble, the royal families, the aristocracy. He was from a modest background, but still not a peasant. He still went to the military academy and all of these things. Ability different than skill. There's a different focus. JPG, JPEG. So it's very similar. Ability is similar to skill. Yes. So modest. Now here, he became one of the most influenced or influential, okay, figures are like people in European history, okay, meaning he was he changed, right? He changed history. He affected the world. This was one man that 200 years ago, the world will never be the same after him, the world changed. So he changed the world, you could say. Now, technically, it's true. If you're a historian, then you would say that he wasn't alone. Some people say he was just a puppet, that he was working, he was part of a team again, right? That he wasn't alone. People think, oh, he did it by himself. But there was a group of people, right? Most of the time. Okay, Sanya has seen Napoleon and Josephine, another movie, right? Exactly, it's a love story. Nice, I'll have to see that one. So if someone has a lot of influence, they are influential. You have a lot of people who are influential now. We have this new term, influencers. They have influence over people. People are influenced by them. And Napoleon was influential. He had a lot of influence, right? He was Now his military genius, right? He's seen by many to be a military genius, right? And so his genius was evidenced. So evidenced, right? You have evidence, okay, or evident, okay? So meaning that you could see his genius, you could see his way of thinking, okay, by the decisions he made on the battlefield. Thank you, Zex. You guys inspire me. I just do what I can. I share what I know. I try to give value. I try to create conversations. So thank you for that. Okay. Good. So it was evidenced, it was evidence, or it was evident. So the best one is evident. It was evident. It was obvious. You could see it. Okay, you could see his battles. I mean, he won so many battles in his early stage. Then later on, he made a few big mistakes, especially in Russia. That was a big mistake. Big mistake. In Russia, he lost like 500,000 men in one battle. In one battle, he lost 500,000 men, and that was a big mistake. That was a big mistake, and that's a lesson for everyone that you can win 10 battles in a row, but sometimes it's that one battle where you lose everything, and that's the end of you. Now, it wasn't the end of him. He continued at Waterloo, and that was the final. That was the end of Napoleon, pretty much. He didn't die, but that was his last battle. That's where the French lost. And but let's focus on his brilliance, right? His brilliance is his intelligence. Now, you can have your own opinion. Later, I'm going to ask you if you think he's a hero, if you think he's a tyrant. Is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? Everyone is talking about that. What is the story? What is the real story? Now, Zach says the Russian winter was a big mistake. Exactly. It's always the same thing. People, they underestimate the power of the Russian winter. The horses, they can't survive. People who are not used to that, it's very impossible. It's impossible. It's very difficult to fight in those conditions, right? So, but you've seen, it throughout the ages, throughout the centuries, that it's not a good, the Russian winter, or the Northern European winter, you could say it in general, that is not a good idea, right? To fight over there in winter. Good. So it was evidenced, right? We see it. We know that he was brilliant. So let's continue here. His brilliance, and that means his intelligence. He was a very, very smart man. Maybe he was evil. Maybe he was good. You can tell me what you think. But one thing is sure, he was smart. And he was more than smart, maybe. Okay. Comment says after the treaties, after 1807, so he became a tyrant. Could be. A lot of times that's what happens. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Now, he was crowned emperor in about, I think, 1805, around that time, on Christmas Day. I believe it was in Notre Dame in Paris. He crowned himself. So typically all the emperors, the Kaisers, the Tsars, the kings, it was the Pope, right, who put the crown on his head. But Napoleon said, no, I'm going to put it on myself to show people that he was a self-made man, that he's not going to let anybody put the crown on his head. He's going to put it on himself. Okay, so good. Yeah, so I'm explaining a lot. So thank you, JJ. Definitely let me know if you have any questions. Okay, the structure today is different. It's more about content, right? It's very fast moving. Sometimes it's more practical. Today it is about content. Thank you, Sonia. Very nice. Was demonstrating. Okay, so here, his brilliance. So here, his brilliance was, or demonstrated. So A, demonstrated. B, is demonstrated. C, was demonstrated. Or D, was demonstrating. Meaning demonstrating, to demonstrate means to show. So which one would be the best one? So Austerlitz, that was a famous battle, a famous battle. I think it was like maybe in Eastern Europe. Was it's present day Slavkov. It was back then. It was in Austro-Hungary. Now it would be current Czech Republic. It's in the Czech Republic. Back then it was Austro-Hungary. Austerlitz, that was probably the Germanic name for it. But, right now, Slavkov would be the location. So it was demonstrated. Okay, so you can look into those battles in the movie, You could, well, watch the movie. I'm not going to tell you, and then you can tell me if it's historically accurate. Which a lot of people, you can watch video, a lot of YouTubers, and like Common was saying, a lot of French people are saying, well, it is not technically. Some things were changed, possibly, right? But it's very, very hard. There's a lot of different opinions when it comes to history, right? And different portrayals. And sometimes, sometimes with plays and movies, they're not documentary films. Let's put it that way. A movie is not a documentary. If you want a documentary, you can watch a documentary. These movies, sometimes some things are enhanced for your viewing pleasure. Passive, exactly, Anna. It is passive. So it was demonstrated. So he demonstrated his brilliance, but his brilliance was demonstrated, okay, in these battles. Now, Napoleon, he played a role. He played a pivotal role in the French Revolution of 1789. People don't understand this, but that's when his career started. All right. And then, after the revolution, he became the first consul and later emperor of the French. Exactly. So this is a painting of Napoleon, and yeah, he became. So it was gradually. He was a general, he was a soldier, then a general, then a consul, and then emperor. Right, king, emperor. Now, people say, well, he lost everything. Well, that's true. We all lose everything when we die, but people say, well, what did he leave behind? Which is the big question. What's your legacy? Now, again, maybe you like him, maybe you hate him, but one of Napoleon's lasting legacies is the Napoleonic Code. The Napoleonic Code. Okay, what is this? Well, it is a civil code. It is a civil code, and of course, it's the law, right? Now, it was in 1804, and it influenced legal systems around the world, right? It was a big legacy. It changed the whole world. People forget about this. People always say, oh, the wars, and he killed a lot of people, and blah, blah, blah. It's true, right? But this civil code recognize some principles of civil liberty, equality, okay, and the secular state, the secular nature of the state. Now, of course, people say it wasn't original. It was based on the Roman principles, etc., right? But it was a big thing. It was a very big thing 200 years ago. Consul is a position, JJ. It's kind of like a position of power. Maybe like a prime minister or like a president, a consul. Exactly, Sanya, right? So, the civil code, right? The Napoleonic Code, we 100 and more than 100 countries, follow this code more or less around the world. 120 countries. That's a lot. A lot of countries. And lawyers think that it's quite a good code. Now, going back to his story, after his defeat, after he lost the battle in 1815, right, in Waterloo, he fought the British there and the Austrians at the same time. Actually, I think it was the Prussians. It felt Prussia, yeah, it was Prussia and Britain. And Britain had a very good strategy there. when the cavalry attacked, basically all, instead of a flat line, they became squares. And so that was much harder for the cavalry, the horses, to destroy. Right. So that was a very good tactic by the Duke of Wellington, who was the military leader of Britain at that time. But anyway, after his defeat at Waterloo in 1815, Napoleon was exiled. He was kicked out. He was exiled to the remote island of what? Is it St. Helena, or is it St. Helena or Elba? Elba. Okay, which one? This was in 1815, where he spent the final years of his life. Okay, Irena says, ABBA has a song about it. Interesting. Exactly. Yeah, he was a great fan of Alexander the Great, and see, that's he said he was the new Caesar, the new Alexander. Exactly. And if you see a lot of his the paintings and everything, when he was coronated, he had the Caesar, like the crown with the leaves that the Caesars wore at the time of the Roman Empire. Okay, so very nice. Good. All right, so defeat is failure. When you lose, JJ, that's your defeat. Very nice. So this one is actually the first time he got kicked out, it was St. Helena. Oh, actually, the first time it was Elba. The second time it was St. Helena. So he got exiled twice. But after Elba, he came back and fought. He came back from his first island, but then the final one was St. Helena. So let's continue here. Napoleon's legacy is a subject of debate. A lot of people are debating. Some view him as a military genius and visionary leader, while others criticize his authoritarian rule. Here's your question. Napoleon was a hero, or was he a tyrant? Was he a good guy or a bad guy? What do you think? So he was a genius, right? A military genius. He was a visionary leader. He had that vision of a new Europe, a Europe that was unified. Now, some people say he just wanted to fight. He just loved to, but other people think that he wanted to unite Europe, that he felt there were too many different interests, that there should be one European, from France to Russia, from Spain, the whole continent should be united. Exactly, yeah. So the first exile was Elba, then he came back to Europe, fought, and after Waterloo, he was exiled to St. Helena, correct? Yeah. So about 50-50, right? Which makes sense. Right? It's hard. Nothing is, like Common says, nothing is black and white, right? Maybe he did some good things, he did some bad things. Most people do good things and bad things, okay? So even if you think you are 100% good, I'm sure we all make mistakes. We all do bad things sometimes. Okay, so that's what we need to remember about humans and people. So his influence extends beyond politics, as he left an indelible mark on art, right? People forget about this. Literature and military strategy, right? So the Napoleonic age, it was an age. It was only about maybe 15 years, maybe 10, 15 years. But, that was a time where France was very, very powerful, right? And the Napoleonic age influenced art, literature, and military strategy, right? Very, very influential. Napoleon's ambitious military campaigns. Campaigns are his his moves, right? His battles, his strategies. They reshaped, they changed, right? They changed the shape, the form of the political landscape of Europe, especially after Napoleon. After there was a Congress of Vienna in 1816, I believe, or 1815, around that time, 1815, 16, the Congress of Vienna, where there was a lot of countries came together and said, we can't have these wars. Again, well, of course, 100 years later, a worse war, everyone knows about that, the 20th century, but basically 100 years before World War I, we already had this, right? So the political landscape of Europe changed, and his expansionist goals led to his downfall, right? He was too ambitious, right? He was too ambitious. Yeah, Zex, exactly. Like if you go to the military schools around the world, they're still talking. They're saying, oh, this strategy, of course, they adapt it to the Air Force, even to the space, because the ideas, even though he used cavalry and, cannons and infantry, the principles can be applied to air battles. They can be applied to space warfare. They can be adapted to cyber warfare. They can be adapted because they're principles. Okay, so you go to the military academies anywhere around the world, and people are still studying his principles. Okay, thank you, Sonia. Good. Thank you. Okay, so here let's look at, and the last slide right here. You can go see him. You can go see his tomb in Paris. This is his tomb. It's called Les Invalides. Les Invalides in Paris. It's the Golden Dome. It's a golden dome. You can go inside, and for 10 euros, now it's probably 15, but for about 10, 15 euros, you can go and see his tomb, his resting place. It's a beautiful building, His, his tomb looks like a ship. He's there. It looks like a church almost, and that's where his body is. You can't see his body. You can't see it, but you know that he's inside there. Okay, so this is it. He's maybe he was good, maybe he was bad, but he is part of our history. He's part of European history. He's part of world history. And as you can see, Napoleonic law, military strategy, he is part of the world.